poured this about 1.5 years ago because we want to eliminate the steps. Older people don't like steps. So I'm going to show you how I did it. Now today's job, we have this sidewalk in here and it's going down. It's going down and then they're coming up. As everybody gets older, they don't want any steps. So what we're going to do is make this sidewalk even with this some way. I'm going to cut this railing off and we're going to go as we go. So I'm going to show you how we do it. I want to explain this a little better. See how all the dirt runs down towards the house? People who get water in their house, it's usually because the dirt goes towards the house instead of away from the house. You want the water going away from the house. So we're going to rip these sidewalks out. This is our excavator. You put the railroad jack underneath the sidewalk so you can get the chain underneath it. Got my lines going down. Match everything up here. With modified, and what we do, we put it in layers because you gotta tamp it a little bit at a time. You can't just fill in it and tamp it then. You do it a little bit at a time, every few inches. That makes sure that you tamp it good, especially since you gotta come up to here with it. Put my curved forms in, and this right here is pitched this way. So the water is going to go this way. This, it got pitched down this way a little bit, and this goes this way a little bit because I don't want the water laying flat on the sidewalk. I want it to be able to come off, especially in the winter. If it's a freezing rain or something, you want the water to get off. So anytime you're doing sidewalks, the first thing to know is where's the water going to go. And then when they redo this, they're going to pitch the water away from the house and out. Okay, we filled the whole sidewalk in with modified. See it? Oh, they got a fancy name. Modified is nothing but gravel. See the gravel? With a real fine stone dust. It's not dirt, it's stone dust. And that, don't let the water come through, because when that water comes out from the road out there, we don't want it running to the house. You gotta have something to block it. If you use real gravel like this, the water will run right through that gravel. You don't want that. That's why we use modified, or 2RC you call it. They keep making fancy names up and they call this 2B. So right here we're using modified 2RC. We all got it formed. And they're backing it up on the sides here with modified. Now I'm going to put my screed key or former key in. My screed key right there. There. That's pretty good. Okay, that's that side. Like I said, you gotta cement them up if you want them to stay there. Now when we're doing something like this, there's always something extra. First of all, that's the old stoop, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna patch it up. And see where the concrete is here? See that brick? I have a brick laying down on top of the other step to support this concrete right here. But like I tell you, you don't want concrete touching anything, because once you touch it, that's usually where you get your cracks. So now this is all cracked up. See, there's little cracks here, cracks. So I'm going to patch this up with some cement now. We're doing a little patch up like this. Got to get the wire brush. Get all that stuff off. Like that. We get the hose and we wash it all down. Get all that stuff off of it. Did this to all my videos. Putting some cement all in here. Level this porch up like this. My other videos are how I resurface a concrete driveway. You get that in there like that. Patch it up. All the holes and cracks with this. I'm gonna get one of these little edgers. These are a cheap one, but you know what? It's real refined. And it's simpler to use, so once in a while I have an affiliate site. I show you where I buy these. And then you just do this. You want to sponge it off and get everything nice and even. Feather it right into the old one. So I'll paint this with Portland, and it's going to match the other concrete.
All right.
Yeah, a little more water.
A little more water.
Concrete driver just left. The way I do it is I like to make sure I get my lines in. So what that does is it keeps the rocks. See your rocks in here? Keeps the rocks from up against the form. Then when I go over against it later, they're already out of the way. That's my thinking. That's what I do. And then I got my big float. Big float flattens all those holes in. Just like that. I'm going to explain myself. It's truck came at 10 o'clock. Then we had it done. We had it poured at like 10:45. So now it's 11:30, and it's about 60 degrees out and sunny. So even though I keep going over this, because I know if I don't, it could get away on me. Especially when the air starts blowing. I poured a 4,000 pound mix, and I see some guys in Florida and California, they use 3,000. 3,000 won't last up here, but I'm sure it's okay down there. See them pouring sidewalks. Over sidewalks, you can't do that here because the ground will actually freeze 6 feet deep. A lot of people have water lines 6 feet deep and they freeze in the winter. Depends on the winter. So everything depends on the area that you live in. Now there's all different sizes and all different kinds of these edgers. So what one do you use? You use the one with the real fine edge, or use with the one with the real thick edge. Well, how do you like your toast in the morning? With butter and strawberry jam or butter and blueberry jam? Same thing. Whatever you want. Whatever you think is best. Whatever you like. So I like the bigger one. Some masons like the smaller one. Doesn't matter as long as it works. Alright, it is 12 o'clock. And it's done. It's done already. That's it. That's finished. Now I finished pouring this and I took the forms off. You already know how to do that. If you remember over here, when I fixed that up. So I'm going to paint that with cement. I'm going to wet it all down first and show you how I did it. So I get some Portland cement right there. I put it in this pot. I'm going to add some glue and water and mix it up. So I wet it all down. I want to make sure it's wet. just like in my driveway videos, gotta make sure it's wet. Want it wet, not too wet. I'm gonna kind of sponge the big stuff up a little bit. So I got this pot. You see that pot?
Morning, Eddie. How are you?
Right there. I'm gonna paint it with Portland. I did this in all my other videos. How I do concrete, how I resurface a concrete driveway. So I'll put that in there. And what it does is it just makes it look like the rest of the concrete. It makes it look new. And if you look at those videos, then you'll understand how to do it. You're going to ask me, Mike, what are you doing with the pot? Well, you know I'm a bachelor and I don't have any pots, so when my sister wasn't home, I borrowed it. I got to get it home in time before she finds out I took it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm matching this stoop to the other one. How long is it going to last? Well, it's like anything. The winters kill everything around here. A year, 2 years, you got to do it again. But all it is cement and water and a little bit of glue. So okay, you see how I wet it down. Gonna keep wetting it for a couple days. See how that matches now? So that's why we did that. So that's the end of this job until the landscaper comes and fills it in. Anytime it's possible for me to eliminate steps on anything, I do the best I can to do that. Because when I sold real estate, you wouldn't believe how many old people would come to an open house and say, do you have any ranch houses with no steps in them? Another thing is you got to tamp that as you go. You can't just fill it deep and tamp it. You got to tamp a little bit at a time. When it rains, where's that water going to go? Because you don't want the water sitting on a sidewalk and freezing. You want the water to get off as fast as possible. And you got to ask me, Mike, why do you float finish concrete? Well, in the old days, before concrete came around, our whole town was made out of big slabs of Pennsylvania bluestone, and I'm going to show you what they look like. This is an example of what these old stone sidewalks look like. They're all made out of Pennsylvania bluestone. Now back in the 50s, all of a sudden people got the idea, well, we're going to use concrete. That's the newest thing. So when you did concrete, you'd float that concrete and everything had to be completely separated, just like a slab of stone. And then maybe in the 70s, maybe in the 80s, someone came up with the idea, well, what we'll do is we'll drag a broom across it, a witch's broom. And then what happened is years later, someone comes up with the idea, oh no, you have to have an official broom to do the concrete. But the broom concrete was considered cheap. You would never do that. And saws didn't really come out until the 80s. Now they just pour big long stretches and they get the saw and they saw through it. Is that right or wrong? It depends on how you're looking at it. The point is, concrete kind of develops as it goes over time, and they keep changing the rules for it. I'll give you an example. Back in the 50s, the first house in our town that got aluminum siding, everybody said, those people are crazy. It's going to be a big lightning rod. It's going to be getting struck by lightning all the time. Then years later, everybody had aluminum siding. Now it's all vinyl siding. So things change and things develop as you go. But there was no broom finishing of concrete. But I also have 3 other series that are in my playlist. Concrete slabs, how I pour it. There's some different rules there. Smooth finish concrete. There's some different rules there. And broom finish concrete. I show you how I do all that. So thanks for watching. I'm Mike Haduck. Until next time.